got a lot to discuss in the world of college football. A lot of big headlines, a lot of big games coming up. Joining us to do so is our guy Brad Powers. Brad, how you making out today?
Hey, doing better than all the trolls out there. We can put it that way.
Indeed. Okay. Yeah, we will leave it at that. Okay. So we got a lot to discuss. There's a lot of big headlines. Lane Kiffin, of course, ranking shakeup coming. Before we get into those big headlines, what are your other big takeaways out of the weekend?
Well, we got to start at the top of college football. Ohio State finally getting that monkey off their back, beating Michigan for the first time in 5 years. And I got to say, it was more dominant than even the 27-9 final. They were plus 250 yards, obviously against the spread, 10-1-1 on the season. One of the best teams in college football against the spread. And here's the thing about it, Joe. They've been load managing and still have covered 10 of their 12 games. They're playing the slowest tempo in college football. Dare I say that they're better than even last year's team? They certainly were more consistent than last year's team. So, and then you look at what they got coming back, Joe. We're looking at a possible dynasty here from the Buckeyes. Clear cut favorite now to win the national championship. Other takeaways. Let's talk Oklahoma and Alabama out of the SEC. Both survived very close, tough games. Could have easily lost both. Both, though, with a win, likely locked up playoff spots, especially Oklahoma. I will say this, though. Both teams really flawed. Oklahoma offensively doesn't even rank in the top 90 in the country, whether you're looking at yards per play, yards per game. Alabama against Auburn, another fortunate win for the Crimson Tide. I've been saying this all year. They got outgained by 130 yards. At some point, it caught up to them against Oklahoma. I think it'll catch up to them again here, maybe even this as early as this week. More on that later. I'm not looking to buy Alabama or Oklahoma national championship futures. And then finally, Ole Miss and Oregon. All the talk about Lane Kiffin and whatnot, but here's the reality: Ole Miss locked up a playoff spot. If they lost, they would have likely been out against Mississippi State.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. Lane Kiffin takes the job at LSU. They gave him just a ridiculous amount of money, so you can't necessarily blame him for taking the job. But the situation is he's done at Ole Miss. Their season's not over, Brad. I think that this is a complete and total disgrace. I think it is a waste of what was a really good regular season for them. Now they go into the playoff with, I guess you would call an interim head coach. I guess they're going to make the guy the full-time head coach. But what are your thoughts on the situation with Kiffin taking the job, being done at Ole Miss before the season is even over? And what do you think needs to change here?
Well, I know one thing that's never going to change is Lane Kiffin, because I mean, this ain't the first time this has happened with him. Whether it's the Raiders, Tennessee, he left after 1 year and went to SC, Alabama. Saban talking about, oh, he should be able to coach. Saban fired Kiffin in between the national semifinals and the national championship game because he couldn't handle two jobs at once. He had one foot out the door taking the Florida Atlantic job. People forget about that. And then obviously at Ole Miss, and I'm here to tell you, Joe, it'll happen with Lane probably within 5 years at LSU. So that's not going to change. What can change is the college football calendar. It's messed up. Signing days Wednesday. You got conference championship week. You got bowls, playoffs, portals coming up in January. Everything they've done to themselves calendar wise is they've done to themselves. So I mean that can change. I mean it's just whether or not they want to. I'll say this. I was not a fan. All them people protesting and even politicking for him to coach the rest of the season. No way could he coach the rest of the season. Are you kidding me? What company, Joe, would allow somebody to announce, hey, I'm going to the direct competitor, your arch rival, and oh yeah, by the way, let me keep the company login access, all the files, access to the customers. Nobody. That you get security in here immediately, take them out of the building. So yeah, I thought it was the right decision by Ole Miss not letting him coach.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But, this is something that is clearly broken. Do you think college football will actually fix this?
No, they've had opportunities to fix a lot of things, Joe, and they create more problems than fixing problems. So no, as of right now, it's not going to change.
It's ridiculous. Wouldn't happen in any other sport. Could you imagine Sean McVay takes a job with the New York Giants and he just leaves the team before the playoffs? It makes no sense. Okay, so another head coach hiring, big one at Florida. John Summeral leaves Tulane to take that job. Do you like the fit at Florida?
I do like John Summeral. He's been a head coach at two different spots. Only been 4 years, but he's won every year. He's 42-11. Has SEC experience back to his days at Kentucky. It is a similar profile, though, dare I say, to Billy Napier, who Florida just fired when Billy was coming out of the Sun Belt in Louisiana 5 years ago. The big thing with any head coaching hiring in today's day and age, Joe, it comes down to support staff. GM now, very important role. Recruiting, what's your budgets? Gators, if you've been following closely, have been way behind facility wise for the last 10, 15 years. They just opened a brand new facility. So if that recruiting budget's up, I'm here to tell you, I was in Gainesville in the summer. There is no excuse why Florida does not have a top 10 recruiting class every year. So it's a top 10 job. And I like Summeral. So if they get the right guys around him, he'll win big.
Okay, we have a shakeup coming for the upcoming rankings. Texas A&M goes down. They're likely to be out of the top 4. People didn't like the performance out of Alabama this weekend either. So what is your prediction for the rankings that will be released here this week?
Yeah, let's get rid of the obvious ones. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Georgia 3. Obviously, the winner of the Big Ten championship game is going to get the 1 seed, 2 seed. If Georgia wins the SEC, they'll get the 2 seed. So that's pretty simple at the top. And the loser of the Ohio State Indiana game will just, depending on, as long as it's not an embarrassment blowout, will only fall to 3. After that, it starts getting interesting. I think Texas Tech, with a win in the Big 12, will lock up a top 4 seed with a win there. Only one loss on the season. Oregon at 5 is my prediction that they've gotten, to close out the season with 2 solid wins for them. They didn't have much on their resume until the last 2 games, but I think the committee will reward them finally for that. A&M, in my opinion, will drop to 6. Ole Miss in, no matter, I mean, they might have, a skeleton crew as his coaching staff at 7. And then it really gets interesting. Oklahoma's in at 8, and then Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU, Miami, all teams on the cut line as far as making the playoffs or not, depending on what happens. If Alabama, I think they're in, but let's say they lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns in the SEC championship game, then it becomes a question. And I think the ultimate question comes down to this, and this is where I have bet a lot. I think the head-to-head between Miami and Notre Dame, it hasn't been a factor yet because even the committee has says they're not in the same grouping, they're not in the same pool of teams. Well, with what's happened in the last couple of weeks, now they'll be in the same pool. With Miami continuing to win and blow out, I think in the end Miami's going to be in and Notre Dame's going to be out, and that's what I bet.
Ooh,
So I think
okay.
that'll cause some reaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I love the process. It's ridiculous sometimes, but it's fun. Okay, let's get into a couple best bets. You have one for one of the big games coming up this weekend, and you have one for the Heisman. You have something locked in. What are you betting?
Yeah, let's talk Heisman. And it's specific to the Big Ten championship game, the 2 favorites. Mendoza is the favorite with Indiana. The problem is his team's about a touchdown underdog. I'm not a big fan of Mendoza, and I think he's going to get exposed in the biggest game of the year against the best defense in the country in Ohio State. So if he's not going to play well, how do you attack this game? Do you want to lay it with Ohio State? It's kind of pricey with the point spread. So how can you get the most bang for your buck? Let's attack the futures. Let's go Julian Saying, the quarterback, off a really good game against Michigan, where his odds did, go from that 3-4 to 1 now down to plus 155. I think Saying and the Buckeyes have a great game. I think Saying has a good performance. And if that's the case, Julian Saying is going to win the Heisman. Let's take advantage of the plus 155. I think that's the best bang for your buck in the Big Ten championship.
Indeed, a little bit of plus money there. Okay, big game. Georgia, Alabama. Georgia's favored by 2.5, and you like them to cover that number.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna the narrative is gonna be Kirby Smart can't beat Alabama. He's only won
Mhm.
once in his career against Alabama. Obviously, majority of them games against Nick Saban, but he is 0-2 against Kalen DeBoer the last couple of years. I will say those 2 games are basically coin flips. So change any one play, he could be 2-0 against DeBoer. So I think there's some value to that. Also, some hidden value here. Georgia's playing in the same stadium 2 weeks in a row. They just played in this stadium last week against Georgia Tech. Didn't play that well, but they'll have the crowd advantage, the familiarity with the venue, so that's a positive. I also like the revenge factor with 2 teams that are completely comparable and talent wise. Again, Alabama won the coin flip the first go around. I think Georgia takes care of business here. And again, Alabama, another phony final. Let's take advantage of that from last weekend.
Okay, there you have it. Some great insights from Brad today. Of course, Brad will be right back with us on Thursday, where we will rip through all the big games of the weekend. And pretty much every game this weekend is a big game. So, Brad, thank you very much for joining today.